Ro, you had an interesting take today about Georgia's offense
Yeah.
and what they're doing to recruit it and build it and fortify it. And it all starts with the tight end position right now. And there's no denying when you look at college football from top to bottom in this country and in any other country where they happen to play it, Georgia's tight end university.
Yeah.
And that's pretty special
Yeah, and
because
they got a stud. They got an absolute stud today in Jaden Riddell. Um, I was talking with somebody that I love talking ball with because I know they get it. And they were talking about Jaden Riddell and some of the things that maybe he brings to the table that Brock Bowers doesn't, and I tend to agree with it. With Brock Bowers, you get a freak explosive athlete. Listen, that his gait, the way he runs, the way he moves
that
is
first
wonky.
step
Is
is
wonky.
just like dynamite.
It is. It's dynamite. But listen, he runs like he's got an armload of groceries and he's trying to get them to mom before her diabetic coma kicks in.
You know what he kind of runs like? He kind of runs like a player on NCAA football. It's a video game.
Yeah, he does a little bit.
He doesn't look like he's going anywhere, but he's moving.
It's just elbows and it looks funky. Jaden Riddell is a really smooth, graceful athlete who I think is a better before the catch tight end guy. I think he's a guy that's going to separate and separate with quickness. I think he brings a lot to the table. And the guy I talked to said, hey, he's not losing any foot races either. He's a stud, man. He's a big time tight end. This is a huge get for Georgia, especially after losing Landon Thomas. I really like the duo that Georgia has at tight end with Colton Heinrich and Jaden Riddell at this point. I got those 2 in 3 days. But my point today, you would go back to the 2018 class that ultimately the group that they signed at the top of this class ended up being kind of a disaster.
There he is.
But you'd have to go back to the 2018 class to find, to look at Georgia's top 5 recruits and see, a majority of offensive players. And right now you've got that. And, for the first time, I think maybe ever under Kirby Smart, and some might say this is good, some might say this is bad. I think it's good because I think this is where Georgia needs shoring up more than anything. You're looking at skill guys.
Why is he making that face, man?
I don't know. You can't do that to somebody though. You can't just flash that in front of somebody.
I mean, he looks like he's
the reason why it's happening though.
He is, dude. He's a beast.
He looks like he's making eyes against across the bar.
All right,
he's a beast. He's a good man.
He is a good dude.
He deserves all the good things. That right there catches you off guard every time.
All right, sorry.
Absolutely.
Dell back up.
But you look at Georgia's top 5 recruits as a quarterback, it's a wide receiver, it's a tight end. And there's no running back, there's no offensive lineman in there. And I don't think you're going to end up with an offensive lineman top 5 in this class. There aren't many that could be top 5 in Georgia's class this year. Just from a ranking standpoint, there aren't even possibilities. So ultimately, I like what Georgia's doing on offense. I really do. And I think they're obviously going to recruit defense really well. I'm not worried at all about the lines of scrimmage because they got a tackle commit that I really like this week as well. Georgia's on a roll right now. For my man Matthew C over here, are you not entertained? Are you not entertained after this big recruiting weekend? Love you, dude.
Jay Cruz, welcome in. We just started talking about this. You have impeccable timing as always. This tight end thing, man, 5, 10, 15 years ago, you say a school's tight end you, like, who cares? That's good for you unless you're, Miami. But Georgia is getting some freaks, man. It's almost like that NBA mentality of getting positionless players.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys are like hybrid wide receiver, running back, tight end, just fast as hell dudes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, they continue to recruit the position. They continue to develop the position. I mean, like you said, Georgia's tight end they've really taken over. It feels like at linebacker to some degree with under Glenn Schumann and what they've done there. I mean, they're pumping guys out on the defensive front. Things are going really well right now is really the only way to say it. But, I agree with Jake too, that what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball is a little bit uncharacteristic, but I think it's really advantageous for them over the course of the long term. They're going to be able to get those defensive guys. I feel confident in that. They're going to get their fair share, and that's honestly where those guys that's where those guys thrive to some degree. Kirby Smart's going to thrive in evaluations for those positions. So I think you're smart to go ahead, stock your cupboards with your offensive guys early on, and then focus as you go into the season. Once those guys, not that there's any kids out there necessarily doubting what Georgia's doing, but the opportunity to put it all on paper and see it once again put in front of you, I think is going to be big for a lot of these defensive guys come official visits this fall.
I'm doubting Georgia.
You're just trying to make Kirby's recording at the end of the year.
8-5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Contrarian Palmer.
With a Gator Bowl loss.
I told Palmer all last year feels like a Sugar Bowl season, like all the way up until like game 8. I was like, yeah, it feels like a Sugar Bowl this year. I'm going to say that again this year, except I feel like it feels like a Sugar Bowl. That would mean playoff.
Yeah, that would mean the CFP. So let's talk about the other guy, Dylan Brooks, with somewhat of a comparison to Rob Gronkowski that I agree with, I think. I think if you're looking at what you got right now on Georgia's roster, it's like Riddell's more the Brock Bowers and Heinrich's more the Oscar Delp.
I could see that. Yeah, I think that's probably a fair way to put it.
They're going to get heavy metal poisoning for all this mullet. They're going to end up.
I had, a ginger mullet, man. That's
between him and if they get Sammy Brown, Tate Ratledge sticks around another year. Jake Roos perusing the sidelines, just mullet everywhere.
The peroxide dogs.
I think that the Heinrich pickup is a very interesting one. I think that Georgia's clearly a lot higher on him than the rankings would show. And I had a chance actually to speak to one of his 7-on-7 coaches the other day, who is the defensive coordinator at Chaminade Madonna. He was talking about working with Colton. And I said, from an opposing coach's standpoint, what do you see in this kid? And he was like, man, he just does it all. He said he comes about it the right way, and he really just does it all. He, I said, I think that he's a guy that people will think of as maybe like a chain mover, a guy you turn to on third down. And he said, look, if you need him to do that, he can. But if you sleep on him, he's going to go over top of you too.
He's good, man.
Yeah.
I'm watching his highlights right now and very impressed.
Yeah.
So, when I pull Huddle up, it looks glitchy on the replay, so I just didn't pull it up tonight.
Yeah.
But I encourage y'all to watch his Huddle, man. And you're gonna have to scroll down because everything at the top of his page is basketball. Unless you want to watch him hoop, he's good at that too.
Now, let me tell you something about this too. Now, some context that needs to be had down there at Cardinal Gibbons. All right. Colton Heinrich is not playing against Sisters of the Poor.
No.
Okay. He's down there playing against studs. I'm talking about dudes and ballers.
I saw American Heritage right here. And
yeah.
It's a real deal division. There's no question about it. And
those dudes get off the bus, they get eat up by skeeters, and then they run 4.2s.
And he's playing 7-on-7 for DEF CON, which is like one of the great 7-on-7 programs out there too.
That's that's the name of a 7-on-7 team.
DEF CON.
Jeez.
Yeah. You got a brand, dude.
It's still not the best. The best one is the Louisiana Bootleggers.
The
Bootleggers is great. I don't even know if Dante what was that kid's name? Dante Jackson. Yeah, Dante Jackson or Jimmy Details down there leading those boys. I don't know if the boys
sounds like an episode of The Sopranos.
Yeah, the fact that
it does kind of yeah. I don't know if the boys ever really understood what bootleggers meant, but but it was they called each other the bootleggers because they played for the boot. down in I'm not Canadian, by the way, but they played for state of Louisiana. But yeah, Bootleggers was always one of my favorites.
Absolutely, man.
All right, now let's get to this fella.
Boy, got a guy that not a lot of people know a lot about.
My collarbone's broken.
Look at that guy, dude. He
looks huge.
I mean, he could play he could play like a Russian henchman. There's no.
Speaking of The Sopranos, man, he looks like Anthony Jr.
He looks like that dude in the episode where they lost the Russian in the woods.
Yeah.
That's what he
Pine Barrens.
Like. Yeah, Pine Barrens.
He's huge, man.
I need clavicle surgery right now from that photo.
6'7.5", 335 from I don't know how to pronounce that. Athol, New York.
Basically Buffalo. He's
the son. He's the son of that Russian.
Yeah.
He's broken some tables before.
Yes.
The Russian in the Pine Barren episode ended up getting to northern upstate New York and raising a family, and this kid is his kid.
Yeah. The kid's a bit of
it's a totally different show when Rusty's not on.
I'm loving the Sopranos references.
And I mean that in the best way possible. Like, you get two different kind of vibes. Like, I feel like we're on our best behavior a little bit more when Rusty's on.
I'm loving the Sopranos references as somebody that's in season 5.
All right, we won't spoil it for you.
So this kid's a Sasquatch, man. He's hard to track down. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, doesn't talk a lot, doesn't give a lot of quotes. Very difficult guy. So what I did,
damn Sasquatch.
I reached out to his coach and got some really good information on Harrison. I encourage people to go read that piece. I was pretty proud of how that one turned out. He gave some really eye-opening stuff. Also, if you haven't read the one I did with Colton Heinrich's mom, go read that one, which is, what was the quote she said? I want to make sure I get it right.
She said, Georgia checks all the boxes.
It was like everything they're doing is exactly what you want for your son or something like that. Absolutely everything they're doing is what you want for your son. That's some strong wording.
And she tweeted that Colton's locked it down. She's a former basketball coach, and his dad is in law enforcement and actually showed up on the K-9 unit at one of the school shootings down there a few years ago. Like, everything about his upbringing is, by the book.
Yeah.
And doesn't seem like there's going to be too many recruiting games played with him. So by the time he gets, I imagine he'll get a bump in his recruiting status. And once Georgia fans see his film and see how special this kid is, man, this is a crazy week, not just for tight ends, but for Georgia in general. And it all comes on the heels of that scavenger hunt weekend. And we said that it felt like, no, I didn't say that, Craig Lawson. It felt like that weekend could be something that we talk about for a long time.
Yeah. Even the guys who didn't commit, you planted seeds that you'll see grow for months to come. And, you have a guy like Jeremiah Smith on campus. How does that play into it? It was his official visit. I'm always a big fan, like I've said on the show before, that you want either, in my mind, the first or the last official visit. You either want to set the stage for the rest of them or you want to be the closer. And, Georgia getting the opportunity to host Smith and have him there for it, I think can really pay off for him in the long term. I'm not saying he's going to flip, but I think that any positive momentum that they have with him right now stems heavily back to that weekend. But this Harrison kid's really interesting. Like I said, not a guy you know a lot about, kind of keeps to himself, but boy, in what's considered a down year nationally for offensive line, to go find a body like that and to get a chance to see him in person and host him and pull him from Buffalo, New York, I think that there's a lot to be said for the job they did with him.
I'm told a few little inside nuggets here. I am told that of the 3 guys that have committed in 3 consecutive days, Tate Ratledge and Austin Blasky spent the most time around them. By the way, I didn't bring up Jaden Riddell in terms of mullets a minute ago. He also has an epic one, maybe the best one of the whole crew.
Feathered, very feathered.
Yeah, Tate Ratledge and Austin Blasky spent a lot of time with those guys. And again, I brought this up. These were 2 of the guys, just 2 of the ones that were summoned back to Athens from, spending time with family. And neither one of them lives right down the road either, mind you. So they came back, got it done. Those two deserve some major kudos among some other players. I'm not exactly sure who else was there, but I knew that both of those guys were coming. Secondly, Roos, one of the biggest pieces of info, one of the most intriguing pieces of info that I was able to gather on Marcus Harrison was when I spoke to Casey Poe yesterday. Roos and I kind of had to team up to get Casey Poe on the phone, who is one of the top interior offensive linemen in the country, who Georgia's also maybe recruiting to play tackle. You know, we can really spin a web there. He's on the Ernest Green path, it seems like, from what I'm hearing. That he basically spent a lot of time with Marcus Harrison too. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, dude, did you get a sense that was coming?" He said, Yeah, I did. It came down to Georgia and Wisconsin, which Wisconsin really wasn't up there on that list. And we don't have as big of a Wisconsin presence on our site right now, so we didn't have that covered really. There wasn't even an offer in the system at the time, so I did have to put that in there. And I saw that he had reported one on Twitter. But listen, man, to me, like, I'm sitting here, I'm watching that kid's film, I'm thinking about the big, not quite, but maybe a little bit Wu-Tangy W on the side of the helmet. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the kind of cat that you're looking at here in about 4 years, maybe 5. He's getting his name called on Sunday, and you're like, oh my God, he looks like he's going to murder somebody, maybe tonight.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy, Marcus Harrison. Jesus Christ. That's scary, but yeah, he's. If you go watch this film, you'll see what I'm talking about.
That kid looks like he has bad intentions, dude.
He does.
Yeah, dude, he looks mean. He looks mean, dude.
And he moves incredibly well. He's a dynamic run blocker right now. He's going to have to learn how to pass pro, but Stacey Searles is good at teaching that. Stacey Searles works with young offensive linemen extremely well. I mean, he's done a really good job of that throughout his career. I like Marcus Harrison. I think he's a guy that has a chance to rise up the rankings, and even if he doesn't, Georgia's going to trust the CVals, because, guys, when you recruit like Georgia does and you take commitments, I don't care if they're 3 stars or not, in May, they're not 3 stars to Georgia. Well, Georgia knows they can string. They know they can string that kid along right there for a little while if they didn't really, really want to take him. Sure. They want to take him.
Yeah, and Rusty mentioned too that going into the weekend, the kid was a take. Then he got to campus, and they were like 1,000% question about it. I mean, he was a take before he even arrived, and then he got on there, and they said, his coach said, "Huh."
6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. I mean,
yeah, 84-inch wings. Yeah.
And coach said, coach made a point to say that his chest is bigger than his belly, which you don't see all the time. So.
I don't know why. I'll always think of Ben Cleveland when somebody says that.
Oh, man. God,
one of these days I'll have to tell my first time I saw Ben Cleveland story. It's such a good one.
Sounds like a Bark After Dark.
Why wait? Yeah, it sounds like Bark After Dark for sure.